Live budget hearings for Franklin County, Ohio. This afternoon's session will begin with a brief video, followed by the presentation of the recommended budget overview and the core principle of efficient, responsive, and fiscally sustainable government operations from county administration.
At Franklin County, our mission is clear: to service every resident every day. In 2025, we're set to spend north of $2.2 billion to provide services and resources in order to help our neighbors, the residents of Franklin County, to thrive, not just survive. This budget is a moral document that shows where our vision meets action to deliver tangible results in Central Ohio. Six core principles guide everything we do in Franklin County, working hand in hand with the community's own vision in our Rise Together blueprint. These principles aren't just goals, they are promises to you. From health and human services to community safety, from environmental sustainability to job creation, from racial equity to fiscal responsibility, each principle represents a commitment to building a stronger, more equitable Franklin County. Over the next several weeks, you will see exactly what I'm talking about. Innovative programs, investments, and most importantly, real results for our community. We'll explore how we're transforming health and human services delivery. You'll see how programs like One Door and our mobile units are bringing services directly to neighborhoods that need them most. You'll also discover how we are reimagining community safety and security. From innovative diversion programs to victim services, we're building a justice system that works for everyone. This year, we'll showcase some of our boldest initiatives yet, leading with our commitment to racial equity, showing how we're creating real change through equitable vendor programs and inclusive recruitment. We'll show how we're strengthening civic engagement and environmental stewardship, from modernizing our election facilities to innovative sanitary engineering projects that protect our community's future. We'll explore how we're building an economy that works for everyone through local business investment, workforce development, and affordable housing solutions that make Franklin County stronger for all. These hearings will represent more than just numbers. These hearings will represent tangible ways how we will use taxpayer dollars to service every resident every day. The future of Franklin County starts here. These investments tell a powerful story, your story, of a Franklin County that's working harder, reaching farther, building stronger to create opportunities in every corner of our communities. Stay tuned.
Good afternoon, commissioners and residents of Franklin County. Our two deputy county administrators are with me today to present the recommended budget. I can't start this address without sharing my appreciation for the work and dedication of Deputy Administrators Kris and Joy Bivens and the team of the Office of Management and Budget for their work throughout the budget process. I would like to thank all of the elected county officials, agency directors for their cooperation and commitment to the residents of Franklin County, with special acknowledgement to Zach Tillerick and his team at the Office of Management and Budget for their assistance in developing the 2025 budget recommendations. The 2025 budget process began in the spring. Following the first quarter review, the Office of Management and Budget, or OMB, prepares an update to the county's long-term financial forecast. This document is used to develop the guidance provided to agencies when the budget direct instructions are released. In May, 35 agencies included in the budget identify strategic initiatives and operational performance measures which are linked to the Board of Commissioners' core principles for each program in their strategic business plan. At the same time, agencies and OMB review baseline payroll information for the upcoming year. Throughout the summer, agencies submit their budget requests for review. OMB staff meets with agencies to review the prior and current year expenditures and what resources will be needed to accomplish their performance targets during the next year. In the fall, OMB prepares budget briefs and presents them to county administration to develop budget recommendations for each program, ensuring that the most effective use of available resources. This culminates in the recommended budget totaling just over $2.2 billion being presented to you today.
The largest portion of all funds budgeted is dedicated to social and human services. At $925 million, social and human services represents 41% of the total recommended budget. Franklin County delivers a variety of social and human services to meet the needs of its residents. The county and its agencies continue to integrate and collaborate in approaching this work. The 2025 recommended budget includes $286 million for Franklin County Board of Development Disabilities. The board serves over 7,500 individuals in the residential support program who receive home and community-based services such as housing, transportation, and employment services that are leveraged with federal Medicaid funding, as well as providing instructional programs to 2,700 children. Another $238 million of these expenditures support the work of Franklin County Children's Services. The agency conducts almost 17,000 intake-related assessments each year. Franklin County Children's Services continue to improve their percentage of youth initially placed with kin. Research shows that youth who need to be removed from their home due to safety concerns reunify more quickly and are less likely to re-enter agency custody when they are initially placed with relatives or non-relatives with whom they have a bond or special relationship. The percentage of kinship placements for youth entering agency custody is 38%. The recommended budget includes $140 million for alcohol, drug, and mental health, or ADAM-H Board. The ADAM-H Board will continue to maintain and enhance the system of care by addressing mental health and addiction system capacity to meet growing unmet needs and deemed demand for services. ADAM-H is working with community partners to build the new Franklin County Crisis Center to serve as the central preferred destination in Franklin County for behavioral health crisis needs. With a planned opening in 2025, the center will provide a complete crisis care continuum for adults that will offer a no wrong door philosophy to ensure that anyone who arrives at the facility receives or gets connected to services. The Franklin County Office on Aging provides centralized access to programs and individualized services for older adults and their caregivers so they can preserve their independence and quality of life. The proposed budget of $72 million will support the anticipated 13,500 seniors who will be enrolled in Senior Options program during 2025, which provides community-based services such as home-delivered meals, homemaker services, adult daycare, emergency response system, and respite care. These agencies can provide these resources primarily through the $535 million in support from the property tax levies approved by the voters. Property taxes are the largest source in the total all funds revenue budgeted for 2025, along with the sales tax and permissive conveyance fees. These taxes account for 52% of the $1.9 billion in all funds and revenue. Intergovernment revenue, which includes state and federal funds, is the second largest source of funding at 24%. This is the primary source that supports the operations of Franklin County Department of Job and Family Services, Child Support Enforcement Agency, Justice Policy and Programs, and the Engineer's Office. The next largest category is services, fees, and charges, which represents 15% of all funds and revenue. This is the primary source of revenue for the chargebacks to county agencies for health care as well as workers' compensation coverage, which nearly $160 million. Other revenue sources represents the 9% of all funds revenue and includes $85 million in interfund revenue and $40 million in miscellaneous revenue. Overall, All funds revenue is expected to remain flat when compared to current 2024 projections. While tax revenue will increase following the approval of the Children's Services Levy last week by the voters, the expected increase will offset by the loss of COVID-era federal funding.
By comparison, general fund revenue in the 2025 recommended budget is expected to be $665 million, which is $8 million or 1.2% less than the amount projected to be received in 2024. The largest portion of the general fund revenue remains the sales tax, which comprises 62% of revenue. Sales tax collections have remained relatively flat throughout 2024, with revenue coming in only 0.5% higher than last year through October. Fortunately, this level of growth is expected to slightly rebound over the next year. Based on the forecast of retail sales from Moody's Analytics, the 2025 recommended budget expects collections of $414 million, an increase of 3.2% from the amount projected for 2024. While sales tax receipts are expected to increase, investment earnings are expected to be negatively impacted by the Federal Reserve lowering rates and the expenditure of the remaining one-time federal assistance from the pandemic. Investment earnings are expected to decrease from $50 million projected in 2024 to $40 million in the 2025 recommended budget. Real estate tax collections in 2024 were strong following the new valuations. As a result, general fund revenue increased by almost $18 million from $55 million in 2023 to $73 million in 2024. The 2025 recommended budget estimates real estate tax collections will be relatively flat, remaining at $73 million. Intergovernmental revenue includes $26 million in reimbursements from the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, authorized by the American Rescue Plan Act. These funds will be used to reimburse a number of initiatives, including support for the Healthy Homes program at Nationwide Children's Hospital to retain and expand affordable housing in the Linden neighborhood, and the Franklin County Digital Equity Coalition, which includes over 40 organizations representing government, education, healthcare, social services, and the private sector to close the digital divide in Central Ohio. Intergovernmental revenue also includes $24 million for reimbursement from the State Public Defender's Office. The state biennial budget for fiscal years 2024 and 2025, House Bill 33, continued investment from the state of Ohio for the support of appointed counsel. However, in May of this year, the State Public Defender's Office notified counties that the reimbursement rate would be decreased from 85% to 78% beginning July 1st, 2024. For the 2025 recommended budget, county agencies and the courts agreed that it would be prudent to budget for a 70% reimbursement rate based on historical fluctuations. The 2025 recommended budget contains $677 million in general fund appropriations, which is $8 million or 1.2% more than the 2024 projected expenditures. A majority of the general fund budget is related to personnel costs, with $279 million allocated for salaries and wages and $118 million for fringe benefits. The next largest category is materials and services, covering 21% of the general fund budget. To account for inflationary increases, agencies were provided a 1% increase in various materials and services items. The estimated impact of this allowance was approximately $1 million when compared to the 2024 budget that was approved last December. The 2025 recommended budget includes nearly $65 million in grant expenditures, including $35 million to community partnerships, $12 million to economic development and planning, $12 million to the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and $4 million to the Veteran Service Commission. In addition to the other budgeted expense categories, the 2025 recommended budget includes $5 million in contingency to meet unforeseen expenditures during the year. This is below the maximum of 3% that is authorized by the Ohio Revised Code, given the relatively flat revenue estimate for next year. As shown in the chart, 59%, or $401 million, of the general fund budget is allocated to the provision of justice and public safety. More than half of that amount, $226 million, supports the operations of the Franklin County Sheriff's Office. The 2025 recommended budget includes the addition of 22 positions within the Sheriff's Office to support the review process of body-worn camera footage, to provide additional security in the courtrooms, and administrative staffing support, including within the Recruitment, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Division. Reserves and debt total $83 million, including $36 million for the payment of the county's annual debt service obligations and almost $29 million in various interfund transfers. These transfers include over $5 million for the mandated share of programs administered by the Franklin County Department of Job and Family Services, $5 million for the support of animal care and control, and $2.7 million for the drainage engineer in support of the county's stormwater efforts.
Due to stagnating revenue and increasing costs, the 2025 recommended budget includes a $12 million draw from unrestricted cash reserves. Despite the use of these reserves, the 2025 recommended budget keeps the cash balance above median levels of other counties rated AAA by Moody's and Standard & Poor's. When including the county's economic stabilization reserve or rainy day fund, which remains untouched at $92 million, along with certain reserves and pledge funds, the projected ending fund cash balance would be at 38.6% of expenditures. In recent years, the county has been able to maintain its general fund cash reserve with the help of federal support. Beginning with the CARES Act in 2020 and the subsequent support of the American Rescue Plan, the county has received nearly $430 million in direct federal support. This includes $8 million from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, $76 million from the Coronavirus Relief Fund authorized by the CARES Act, and $89 million through the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, and $256 million from the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund through the American Rescue Plan. Through the end of 2024, the county will have utilized approximately 85% of this funding, providing rental, food, employment, and other assistance throughout the community, while avoiding the need to utilize cash reserves. The county will also ensure that the full $256 million from the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund is obligated by the required December 31st, 2024 deadline. The 2025 recommended budget includes the remaining $56 million from the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund to be expended before the end of 2026, and the final $9 million from the Emergency Rental Assistance Program that must be expended by September 30th of 2025. While this funding has been critical to preserving and funding policy initiatives, we must prepare now for the time when these funds will no longer be available. For the difficult decisions that will need to be made, county administration will look to the core principles established by the Board of Commissioners to ensure that these decisions align with our strategic priorities.
In 2011, the Board of Commissioners established 5 core principles to provide more clarity about why the programs the county offers exist, what value they offer to the residents, and how they benefit the community. In 2020, racism was declared a public health crisis, and the board also established promoting racial equity in all areas as the county's 6th core principle. Over the last few years, we have worked on optimizing our budget documents to streamline the format, spotlight performance, and identify the primary services within each agency's programs. This summer, Franklin County leadership refined the strategic goals associated with each of its core principles. The county continues to be a growing, vibrant community with ever-evolving opportunities and challenges. The county's strategic direction has been updated to highlight priorities that are essential to achieving the ideals outlined in the 6 core principles. By providing direction and intention to the county's day-to-day operations, this revised strategic direction ensures that we will uphold our mission to serve every resident every day. For each core principle, we have identified a vision of the ideal state we seek to achieve and the objectives that are the strategic areas of investment necessary to advance toward our vision and the values which are the core beliefs that guide our work.
The budget presented today aligns with core principles of efficient, responsible, and fiscally sustainable government operations. The vision is to practice strong fiscal stewardship that follows a clear and sustainable strategy to ensure long-term economic health and stability of the county. This can be achieved by maintaining the county's prudent financial management as evidenced from its AAA bond ratings from Moody's and Standard & Poor's, promoting efficiencies such as investments in electronic vehicles to help drive down operating costs, investing in staff that reflects the community and reduces employee turnover to promote succession planning and maintain institutional knowledge, and assisting community partners through various grant programs in order to grow a sustainable network of local service providers. Transparency requires us to provide information about county operations and finances that is easily understood by the public. Budget briefs have been developed and posted on the county's website for each of the 35 agencies. In addition to a detailed review and comparison of revenues, expenditures, and FTEs, the document provides highlights from the agency's strategic business plan, a description of any new initiative, and details each program. Transparency will also be accomplished in 2025 as the county continues the process for updating its website to centralize all agency services and programs in order to better serve its residents. This will be supported with additional of 2 new digital communication positions in the data center that will assist with implementing best practices and providing support for agencies in developing their content. Responsible stewardship requires that we use taxpayer funds efficiently and effectively, while sustainability involves managing finances in a way that ensures necessary services receive funding while maintaining the county's long-term financial health. In addition to the review of the various budget requests, O&B analysts monitor adherence to budget and performance targets throughout the year. Furthermore, by developing and updating annually its long-term financial forecasts, the county is able to identify future revenue and expenditure trends in the long term in order to avoid adverse decisions in the short term that would impact community services.
There are 9 agencies that fall within efficient, responsible, and fiscal sustainable governmental operations, totaling $676 million, or 30% of the all funds budget. The 11% from the previous budget in the increase is primarily related to the $50 million increase from public facilities management within the Permanent Improvement Fund. Resources have been set aside from the previous few years to support these projects, with $14 million for the remainder of the plumbing renovation at the downtown office tower, $12 million to begin the construction of the Early Learning Center on the site of the former downtown jail, and $12 million for the build-out of additional space at the Board of Elections. The largest of these agencies is the Board of Commissioners at $298 million. Just over 2%, or $7 million, supports the operations of the commissioners, county administration, O&B, and public affairs. The remaining $291 million supports the budget of various reserves, pledge funds, and debt service. The budget also includes $40 million within the Affordable and Emergency Housing Fund that is being transferred over from Economic Development and Planning for the 2025 budget. For other agencies within this core principle, the changes between the 2024 approved budget and the 2025 recommended budget are related to, for the auditor's office, the variance between is primarily attributed to additional staffing within the real estate assessment fund, along with real estate fees and IT software subscription costs in the general fund. Similarly, the variance in the data center is primarily attributed to additional staffing as well as costs associated with IT consultants and Microsoft licenses. Within general services, the variance is primarily attributed to an increase in grants within the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, increases in professional services, and postage to support the operations of the purchasing department. The addition of staffing within fleet management to support our mobile offices. The variance within human resources is primarily attributed to employee health and wellness expenditures resulting from an increase in enrollment that is anticipated. For the law library, the variance is primarily attributed to a decrease in publications and subscriptions. And the variance in the recorder's office is primarily attributed to non-bargaining increases in salaries and associated fringe benefits approved during 2024. Within the treasurer's office, the variance is primarily attributed to increases in IT costs in the general fund, grants in the delinquent tax and assessment fund, and postage services within the tax lien fund. I conclude this message with a fitting quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. While fiscal challenges appear on the horizon, the 2025 recommended budget, along with the dedication of our employees, we will be able to meet these challenges by following the visions and actions of the Board of Commissioners as outlined by our core principles. This will allow us to maintain the county's strong financial position. At the same time, we will continue to provide innovative programming to enable all residents to share in the progress and growth of our community. Budget hearings have been scheduled to provide additional details regarding the other core principles. On November the 19th, the core principles of supportive health and human services and community safety and security and effective justice will be discussed. And on November 26th, the budget hearings will focus on the remaining principles of racial equity, good stewardship of natural resources, environmental sustainability, and civic engagement, job creation, strategic economic development, and fiscal security. County administration looks forward to working with the Board of Commissioners as it deliberates and takes action to finalize this budget. Thank you very much for your time and attention, Board, and thank you to the residents of Franklin County. I'll now turn things over to our Budget Director, Zach Tillerick.
I would ask the commissioners if they have any questions or comments.
I'm sure, I think my colleagues are online here, but since I'm here in the room, I'll start. First of all, let me just acknowledge and thank the administration for, Director Tillerick, are you doing a presentation or
Nope.
you just going to take questions? Okay. I don't want to get too into it, but I want to just thank the administration for presenting this budget in a timely manner, in a fashion that is, on the surface, reflective of our core values and some of the challenges that are ahead of us. I don't take it lightly, the work that goes into this presentation. I don't take it lightly, the work that goes into managing these resources and our budget. It's a lot. And so I know how much work that your team puts in, Director Tillerick and Administrator Wilson. I know how hard they work to ensure that we are spending according to the priorities of the county, and appreciate that. So that being said, while I know we're going to have an opportunity to dig in on some of the departments, I do have a couple of sort of surface level questions. For those who are not in this room, you should see the administration looking at me. They're all giving me these eyes. If their eyes had lasers on them, I'd be cut in half. But anyways, a little budget humor there. A couple of things. One, I think it is prudent for us. This isn't a question, statement. I think it is prudent for us to underscore the need to update our core values as we go through the budget process. In my opinion, having it updated first would be idea, but we're kind of just getting to needing to reconcile a few things. And so I just would emphasize the urgency for us to update our core values. They're generally the same, but we want to just do some massaging there on maybe order of priorities. The second thing I wanted to focus on maybe was this federal, the investment earnings reductions that you're projecting. Over the last month or so, maybe 2 months, I lose track, there have been 2 Fed funds cut, one for 50 basis points and the other one for 25 basis point. I believe there was an announcement just the other day that they expect another cut in December. What is that beeping? Is that my phone? I believe they are looking to make a what is that? That's this. I believe they're going to make another cut. Is that correct? Is that they're projecting? I think there was somebody saying mid-December.
That is my understanding as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it's probably going to be similar to the last cut, probably at 25 basis points. So it's 100 basis points in reduction into our investment portfolio in a few months. What does that mean in real numbers in terms of our investment portfolio? Because it could be more, and there could be more cuts in 2025 based on kind of things in the economy. So what does that mean in real numbers?
In terms of real numbers, we're expecting about a $10 million reduction in investment earnings from this year to next based on those rate cuts. So we have worked with the Treasurer's Office and the county's investment advisor, and over the last year, they have been trying to buy securities out in longer term to lock in those rates so that there'll be less of an immediate impact from those rate reductions. So the core portfolio, the average rate of return is expected to be around 3%. Where we'll see that impact is on the liquid portfolio for the kind of immediate cash on hand, which, Star Ohio is earning over 5% recently. That's something that is definitely going to see that 100 basis point cut almost immediately. And so as we're looking to put the budget together, we look primarily at looking at only that core portfolio in terms of the budget estimate. Again, knowing that with further rate cuts, the revenue that would be received from the liquid portfolio would be less.
And does the $10 million assume there are no further cuts from the feds for next year?
They would still be contemplated in that in terms of, so the rate of return is, so because of some of the investment decisions made in the last year, they've been able to lock in rates at that higher rate. So as some of the older securities that are earning less than 1 or 2% are falling off, that even with some additional rate cuts, they still would potentially be earning even more than they are currently, just because they were purchased at the height of the pandemic when rates were near zero.
And I think that's helpful. And then, and why I say that, why I'm zeroed in on that, because those will be rather immediate impacts because those numbers, when that money goes away, it just goes away,
And just on that point, a few years ago, just at the height of the pandemic, our investment earnings were only $10 million annually.
Mm-hmm.
So again, when rates get to that very low level, that does have that impact, and it has changed just in a few years to go up to $50 million. But then, that now going back lower another $10 million just in 1 year. Like I said, that is something that's contemplated in the forecast as well.
Yeah, and it's a double-edged sword. When the feds cut the rates, that means generally lower rates in the market for other things, like if you're buying a home or buying a car or something. But it affects us on the other side where we're investing, and so those lower rates have a lower return, and we feel that. And I appreciate you talking about the longer securities so that we can balance out the portfolio to absorb the volatility in what we don't know to be the cuts. I mean, because that would be the prudent action, and so and I wouldn't doubt that's what we're doing. I just think the public should hear that kind of thing. So, the only other question that I wanted to add, I apologize for coming in late because and so it was hard to keep up. Then you guys were flying through it. That's driving me crazy. I don't know what that is. This is my iPad. I don't know, yeah, but all right. And I wrote it down. I can't find it here. That's that later. I can get that later. I think that's it. That's all I have.
All right. Do we have any other questions from commissioners on the screen, clerk?
don't see any.
Okay.
I guess if there are no other comments or questions, then that will conclude today's presentation.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
That will not conclude our presentation.
Yes,
Commissioner Carl, I was wondering where you was at. I was like, I know Commissioner Carl and Commissioner Reddy gonna say something. I was like, just say it happened. So I knew it. I was gonna stop and say it. So.
So I just have one quick question, might lead to another. The all funds budget is 1.9 billion.
2.2 billion.
It's still, okay, 2.2. Where did I get the 1.9?
1.9 is the revenue.
Oh, it's revenue. I'm sorry, I came on late. All right. Well, that answers it, then thank you.
Now, if there are no other comments or questions, then that will conclude today's presentation. As mentioned by our county administrator, the next budget hearings are scheduled for Tuesday, November 19th on Zoom, starting at 1 o'clock, with presentations related to the core principles of supportive health and human services and community safety, security, and effective justice. With that, thank you for attending today's 2025 budget hearing.
Recording stopped.